تمار سرح تقدم تمرتين طغم عفاش سرح كبرتي ناتنتنا بغلتنا معيرتي تنبي كبير عبير نايبل نتر تشيني كعد برابر كلها معين سبلقة بديقي عالبقة عصر في دلعقة
At times it seems the gods have conspired to inflict every possible hardship on this country. It's isolated, rugged, miserably hot, and regularly visited by drought, flood and pestilence. And if that's not enough, its people have been fighting a war of independence for the past 27 years against what should be impossible odds. There is a plague on this land. Today, a plague of locusts. But through history, Eritrea has suffered every imaginable hardship. It's the insects that are doing now to Eritrea what drought did in 1984 in the Great Famine. And this on a land stained with the blood of 1 million people killed in a bitter and forgotten war. Eritrea's enemy in this war is Ethiopia, the prize independence. It's a David and Goliath struggle, one of the smallest armies in Africa, backed by no one, taking on one of the largest, supported by the Soviet Union. The outcome is significant to both East and West. Eritrea's ports dominate the vital shipping routes through the Red Sea to the Suez Canal. The Soviets have a base here, a base they stand to lose should Eritrea win the war. The Soviets support, with men and money, the military junta of Lieutenant Colonel President Haile Mengistu. They've sent 4,000 military advisors to join the 11,000 Cubans fighting with what's now one of Africa's largest armies. But Mengistu is a man so erratic and despotic, even the Soviets despair of what he's doing to his country. Mengistu's greatest crime, squandering an estimated $5 billion on sophisticated weapons at a time when thousands of his countrymen were starving during the Ethiopian famine. They still go hungry, and countries like Australia are left paying the bill to feed them. The Eritreans began their fight for independence long before the famine. In fact, 27 years ago. With their land, their language and culture being swallowed up by Ethiopia, they took up arms. First as a factionalized group of rebels, now as an efficient fighting force, united under the Eritrean People's Liberation Front. or EPLF. Women fight alongside men, Christians alongside Muslims, peasants alongside merchants. Like the Viet Cong and Afghanistan's Mujahideen, they are frustrating a bigger and better equipped enemy because they're committed. They've constructed roads up impossible mountains, kept running a remarkable transport system, and learned to live underground, safe from constant bombing. In dozens of underground factories, an industrious people attempt to drag themselves clear of the third world. Here, a shoe factory. Elsewhere, a production line making sanitary napkins. Ironic evidence of how 27 years of war have changed millenniums of tradition. The women once banished from homes during menstruation and subject to circumcision now make up 30% of frontline troops. The self-same women once considered fit for the most menial tasks now command tanks.
The popular impression is that this is a guerrilla war. The Eritreans, an unruly bunch of rebels prowling in the hills. That couldn't be further from the truth. This is conventional war with conventional weapons, tanks and artillery, all of it courtesy of the Russians.
The EPLF now have an arsenal of captured weapons they say is almost the equal of the Ethiopians. They include more than 50 tanks, long-range artillery, rocket launchers, and anti-aircraft guns, all of them captured from the enemy. And they're using the weapons to devastating effect. Throughout Eritrea is evidence of the mauling that the Ethiopians are receiving at the hands of the Eritrean rebels. Here, the shells of tanks wrecked in a recent battle for the town of Alphabet, one of the last 4 towns in Eritrea held by Mengistu. 20,000 of his crack troops were routed, the Eritreans' biggest victory so far. In the course of the fighting, the Eritreans say that 18,000 Ethiopian troops were either killed, wounded or captured. The EPLF now holds an astounding 13,000 prisoners of war. They are kept in camps along steep mountain valleys, their boots confiscated to make escape more difficult. But most don't want to escape. What awaits them back in Ethiopia is worse than anything the Eritreans can inflict. Many have been here for years, wasted lives following endless routines. The EPLF wants to send these prisoners home, but the Ethiopian dictator refuses to take them back. Such is Mengistu's arrogant pride, he denies they are prisoners of war. He calls these people deserters. These are the people Mengistu sends to fight his war. Most are illiterate peasants, some as young as 14, forced to fight in a war they don't understand. These are the lucky ones that weren't killed, but their release is impossible until Mengistu acknowledges that they even exist. And so desperate is Mengistu for soldiers, he still sends boys like these to the front. Abu Michael is from Aras province in southern Ethiopia. He was a 14-year-old in 8th grade when 50 soldiers surrounded his school and rounded up over 100 students. 2 months' training was all he had before being sent to war.
Did your family know that you were taken?
Among the prisoners of war are 2 Soviet colonels and a lieutenant. They're the first Soviets to be captured in this war. They insist they're just advisors, and in fact demanded a taxi to take them home when they were captured.
We believe that the Ethiopian armed force is totally armed by the Russians. They have their advisors in the division level. So we have many experience of their involvement in the military affairs.
The Soviets were based at Alphabet, a crucial pivot in Mengistu's defences, and the humiliation of its capture brought serious reprisals. Civilians have now become targets in this dirty war. Bombs and napalm turned against towns and villages. The tactic is as much to instill fear as to kill, but every day people die. Six months of Mengistu's terror has forced the Eritreans to abandon their homes and villages. Their crops wither, their animals die, and they become refugees. They end up here, in camps scattered throughout Eritrea. 9,000 people have arrived at this camp since March. They survive on a trickle of food aid from countries like Australia and bring with them horrific stories of atrocities committed by Mengistu's troops. On May 12 this year, Amna Mohammed claims 400 people were massacred in her village in Sheb province.
They surrounded our village, then 2 tanks approached us from opposite directions and began running over the people. Then they started shooting at us with machine guns. One of my children was shot. I grabbed the other 2 and hid with them under the dead bodies. We stayed there 2 days before it was safe to escape.
Surviving Mengistu's tyranny, however, is only half the battle. For even nature, it seems, conspires against the Eritreans.
The Eritreans hardly have an easy life. If it's not drought, it's war, and if it's not war, it's pestilence like this. These locusts, thousands upon thousands of them, could destroy an entire crop about 15-20 minutes flat.
The futility is obvious. Hand sprays are useless. Only aerial spraying can control the plague. But what's most obscene about this plague is that the locusts have become a weapon of war. A recent program of aerial spraying has been stopped. Mengistu threatened to shoot down any plane entering Eritrean airspace. The world knows Ethiopia and Eritrea for natural disaster. But perhaps the world should pay more attention to this disastrous war. Because while Mengistu squanders billions fighting the Eritreans, the world bears the cost of feeding his people. Every bullet is a lost seed, every soldier a lost farmer, and there is no military solution. 27 years of fighting has proved the Eritreans can't be beaten.
ተቃዋሚ ኃይሎች በየጊዜው በሚያገኙት ድል ከነፍስ ወከፍ መሳሪያ ወደ ሜካናይዝድ ከአነስተኛ የተዋጊ ኃይል ቁጥር ወደ ክፍለ ጦር ተሸጋገሩ።
ተራሮቹን ብዙዎቹን አይቻቸዋለሁ። በመሬትም ባየርም አንዳንዶቹ ተጠግቻቸዋለሁ፣ አንዳንዶቹን ወጥቼባቸዋለሁ። እዛ ላይ ይዛችሁ የወጣችሁት መድፍና ታንክና ምናምን በአንድ አጋጣሚና ሁኔታ ወይ ቀን ወይ ሌሊት ጠላት ሲያጠቃጥላችሁ ነው የምትመለሱት። ስለዚህ ፓርቲያችንና መንግስታችን ሁለታችሁንም ነው የሚያስታጥቀው። ይሄን ታውቁ የለም? አብዮቱ ሲጀመር ሻዕቢያ የሻምበል አቋም ነበራት እና የመቶ ተራ ድብልቅልቅ ያለ መሳሪያ ይዛ ስታበቃ ነበር ወራ የምታራምደው። ያን ጊዜ እዚህ በተከፋፈልና ኢህአፓ ባሽበደመደው ደካማ ሰራዊት መካከል ጥቂት ሰው ይዛ ስታበቃ ከፍተኛ ሽብር ትነዛ ነበር። እኛ አብዮቱን ስንጀምር ሻለቃ ስትል ብርጌድ ስትል ዛሬ በክፍለ ጦርና ብሎም በሜካናይዝ ማን ነው ይሄን ሁሉ ያስታጠቀው? በማን መሳሪያ ነው የምንሞተው ያላችሁ እንደሆነ እና እኛ በሰጠነው አይደለም እንዴ? እንዲህ አይነት ትግል ነው የገጠመን።